If everyone could please make their way into the room. Thank you, everyone.
Nice. I think we're good. Yeah, that's all right. Thanks, Chris. Hey, Chris, is the stream okay? Yep. Okay. Phil's there. All good. Hey, Phil, you see the slides okay? Yep, good. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining in. Hopefully, you've had some drinks and you got some pizza. It was Bitcoin Pizza Day last week around the world. So, yeah, we're staying on track for that. I wish we were sponsored by Domino's, but not yet. You notice I haven't got the logo up there. But, anyways, if you haven't met me before, my name is Mark. And if you have met me before, I apologize. I'd like to begin by paying our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we gather, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. We'll go to the next slide. So that's a QR code because everything's a QR code these days. That's just got a few links on there for our meetups. We are on meetup.com, and you would have signed up on that. There's the website, there's the newsletters, there's the YouTube. We do podcasts. We do too much. So if anyone wants to help, please do advise. We are going to be moving in future to another platform. Like, we'll still keep some stuff on Meetup, but I'll talk about that. Next slide, please, Phil. Thank you. So this is the agenda for today. We're going to hear from some awesome talks, but every time we do these, we do some updates about what's going on around the country and just what's going on with the association and the community. So we'll talk about that. There's some amazing events coming up. Next slide, please. And I'll rush through these next. You all didn't know it's voice activated over here. It's very future driven. So the last event we did was here this time, probably last month, around the 24th or so. I can't remember the exact date, but we had some great presenters. Veiled presented. They do loans through crypto. Liam, who was wearing the Stables hat, but now he wears a different hat. He can talk to you about that, but we are going to hear from Stables. We had Patricia as well, and we just had some really good talks and networking. The key for all of this is that you get the networking at the start. We do some talks, make sure it's interesting and stuff. You get to network with the people after this as well. And if people feel, willing enough, we might go down to a pub and continue. So we'll see how we go. Next, Melbourne. So I just came back from there last month. They had a great panel. The video on that is going to come out soon. Normally we don't film the ones down in Melbourne, or I film it just on a phone. I actually brought camera equipment down, so hopefully it's okay. I didn't get to bring Chris down, so if you see the guy running around the back fiddling with the cameras, that is our little camera in, I don't know, Chris. Sorry, Chris. Yeah, anyway. Chris is the guy at the back, and Phil's helping him out, but we'll talk more about that. So the next slide, please, Phil. More in Melbourne. They've got a really cool NFT gallery. If you haven't heard of Cloud Tech Group, their office is down there. One of the floors, they've got this really cool immersive NFT gallery. So if you're ever down there, look for the events that are going on there. Next. Perth had some events as well. So most recently, they had a talk with the University of Western Australia and a couple of NFT and gaming groups. And then my colleague Arturo, who's the one on the far right, was also there as well. So some really interesting stuff that wasn't recorded though, but next time we'll try to do that. Next slide, let's get over to Brisbane. We're going to do another Brisbane event, but this one was a month and a bit ago where it was the University of Queensland, QUT, and they've got their technology-focused law society. So that was really interesting to see all these law students and folks that are in that space wanting to talk about AI, blockchain, etc. So it was really nice to get out there. So when you're around the different parts of the nation, you see these, you'll see these events that we're running. Next one, we also had ETH Global Sydney, so there were a couple of things happening in that space. So if you, hands up here who went to like ETH Global, anyone? Oh, wow, more than I expected. So thanks for coming along to our event as well. And yeah, there's just a lot of momentum, given that took place. It was, the first time they did it here in Sydney. Usually we have to travel because Australia's so far away. We're the ones that have to travel to get everywhere else. So it was really nice to have people come here. So I just see bigger and better things for that. Next slide, a bit more on ETH Global. So you can see some of the events that you might have been at. If you didn't get to go, that's cool. We do this Oz DeFi podcast. Mostly we do it at a place called Crypto Lulu or Bar Lulu, which is down in the rocks. And as you can see, sometimes there's a ship in the way, or like on the right, but if you schedule it correctly, you can actually get the nice Opera House views over there. So some of the people in the room have been on the podcast before, but yeah, there'll be more of that. And then there's a few events coming up. So first up, there's Blockchain Week, which is on the 11th to the 14th. Hands up here who knew about Blockchain Week and is going. Okay, very good. Look up blockchainweek.com.au and you can get tickets to the various events, some online and a lot in person here in Sydney. The next one, we're going to run an event during that. So the next one of these is going to be during Blockchain Week. So on the 13th, which is a Thursday. So make sure you come along for that one. It's on the meetup. And then, yeah, so check that out. There is another event that we're going to be involved in, which is called FinTech Marketplace. And that's more aimed at the banking, open banking, FinTech, payments, anything to do with like finance, basically. So banks and vendors all coming together just on the one day. It is crossing over with Blockchain Week, but if you want to, you can jump between the different events on that day. And then in the evening, we're going to run our event, as you saw there. So that's interesting coming up. Because blockchain is, it's in that kind of like fintech space. So that is quite interesting for us. This is not just a vacuum. There's real world stuff that's going on and that you'll hear about. Brisbane is doing its event the 25th. So if you are up there, check that out. Next one. And then this, we're going to be moving more to Luma. It's just easier for us to manage. When people go to the one page, they can see all the events that we've got going on. When we run it through Meetup, the hard thing is that you have to have a Meetup page for each city. So because of time zone differences, I don't know why they just haven't fixed it so you can just have one Meetup page with different like time zones. But in any case, most of Web3 is on Luma. It's a really good site. Makes it easy to manage your meetups and stuff. And if some of you don't know, like we do a lot of stuff in AI as well. So I work for the Oz DeFi Association. We run it. I work for another company called Not Centralized, and we do stuff we build in blockchain. We'll talk more about that next month and the projects that we're updating people on. But we also do stuff in AI. So this is a little AI tool with some agents that are doing work, taking the transcript from a talk like this and turning it into a LinkedIn post. Let's go to the next slide. You can see like the output for that. Obviously, humans, you would edit it and do the tweaking, but it's interesting there. And then the next slide is that if you have an idea for something, so we were thinking about, well, the Bitcoin ETFs were about to come out back at that time. How do you use AI for this kind of stuff so it can actually help a lot with blockchain as well? So here what it's going to, oh, nice, thanks, Phil. Here what it's going to do is break down that single prompt into like other various prompts. And you might ask, okay, that's great, we can use AI in blockchain. How does blockchain help AI? There's going to be things in terms of security or the ability to prove, like right now we're tackling privacy and hallucinations. Those have been probably tackled and being done quite well now. There's ways to keep your privacy on ChatGPT and other tools or using a third-party tool. There's also ways to reduce hallucinations. Blockchain is going to come into play when you need to prove that humans were part of the loop, humans were part of the process. In a future where your financial advisor or your healthcare advisor or doctor is using AI, that's fine because it's an efficient tool, but I want to still make sure that they are reading it, that a human has taken responsibility to look over the output, human in the loop, being able to sign it with blockchain-based signatures, and even better with ZK proofs. And if you want to know what a ZK proof is, just think that you can prove things about data without having to share the data. So interesting things that blockchain is doing in AI. We'll present on that another time. But let's get to the next slide, and I think we're getting to the presentations. So first up, we've got our main sponsor tonight, Stacks. Give a hand of applause for Gordon, who's going to present. We'll go. Who's up first? Yeah, there's Mike here.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for Oz DeFi for having us here tonight. It's really exciting. We're online with you guys back in February, and a lot's happened since then. So we thought we'd make our way all the way down to Sydney and present in the real world. So yeah, thank you for having us tonight. So I'm Gordon Christian. So yeah, I'm from Stacks Australia, and tonight's talk we're going to have with you guys, we want to get some good interaction with you, is why build on Bitcoin. And if we could just go through to, I'm just going to have a couple of slides on the presenters, so myself and the companies that I'm working with. So I think we've got someone driving the slides up the back. Yep. So you can. Oh, next. Okay, great. So yeah, I'm Gordon Christian. I'm the chairman of the Digital Playhouse Foundation. It's a crypto native charity. I was started in Central Queensland, and we started a school called the School of Bitcoin. And that school got a grant from Stacks, and from there we've gone and developed a number of programs with our learners coming through, one called Stacks Labs. We've got 160 students lining up to learn smart contract languages. It's a global program. And we've got a lady, Nita, who's from Sydney, who runs the Art of Bitcoin, Art on Stacks. Next. Yeah, so the programs that we're running at the moment are, we've got Ian's working with Griffith University to We've got a learner program there. We've got 20 students learning smart contracts. I think it's the first of its kind in Australia where actually got people learning smart contracts at a university level. And they're also working on a Nostr project. We ran Blockchain Week Youth event last year. And we've also just recently sent 20 computers down to a primary school in Victoria. And they're learning about Bitcoin. And we work with Bitcoin Startup Lab. That's a pre-accelerator, which has had over 900 people apply in the most recent cohort. So next, joining us tonight, that's us about myself. I'll just let Ian introduce himself and Lewis.
Sorry about my voice. I had a soccer game with my daughter this morning and I was probably too excited. So it's a bit crooked and I can't really see everyone, but if you guys have any questions or anything, please raise your hands or your voice and ask any questions at any time. I think Gordon and I, we want to try to make that as interactive as possible. My name is Ian Banksia. You can see by the icons, I am a very serious person, you know, and also the projects we are working on, like the major one is the Nakamoto operations, where we try to connect the left-hand side and the right-hand side of DeFi in just one place. So all your meme coins, all your crazy stuff, but also really serious smart money. And we're trying to build all of that when possible using only Bitcoin and Bitcoin programming language and Stacks as a layer 2 to support when that is not possible. Also helping Stacks Australia and Griffith University in that learning program, which is really cool. And really what I try to do is to bring real life examples to the students, right? So they come out of university in a position where they can either get a job or start their own business with a more, down-to-earth mentality in how to solve a problem using blockchain. Yeah, that's pretty much that about me.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. So we also have Lewis join us tonight. So I met these guys just through Stacks in the last couple of years, but I only met Lewis for the first time tonight. So, Lewis?
Hi, everyone. My name's Lewis Klein, and I'm a statistician working in Sydney. I'm finishing my PhD in cognitive neuroscience, and I'm working as an independent developer using the Clarity smart contracts language on Stacks to build what I'm calling the Scientia protocol. I think that one of the most important things that we can do as a society is to decentralize and to open the products of our scientific research. Actually, I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, there have been a couple of media articles. I saw one in The Guardian and one on CNN also talking about how there are 15 to 16 billion US dollars of profits made by the academic publishing industry. And that is done off the back of taxpayers' money because taxpayers fund governments which sponsor grants that go to universities. And then the outputs of the research work gets put behind paywalls. So the Scientia protocol is about decentralizing that process and making it so that the outputs and the products of scientific research are open and accessible to anyone. This could mean inscribed on the blockchain, but it's also about coordinating peer reviewers. So primarily, my work is about figuring out how to use smart contracts to connect and coordinate peer reviewers in a decentralized way, in a way that's relevant to the topic in the manuscript that's being reviewed. So that's my work.
Yeah, excellent. I think when I first got into blockchain, it was in real estate and blockchain because that was my industry. And watching that grow slowly as to how that impacted that industry. And yeah, so I really love watching people that are actually applying it to the industry that they're working in. So just quickly tonight, if we can go to the next slide. So we're just going to cover a couple of things. We're not going to be death by PowerPoint, that's for sure. But we just want to cover a couple of topics there for you. Probably some questions you might have, so please raise your hands. I was quite curious to know who's actually building in the Bitcoin ecosystem. Is anyone actually working on a project on a Bitcoin layer 2, the Lightning Network, working with startups in the Bitcoin layer 2 world?
Well, 1, 2, 3 hands in the back. That's
okay,
good.
Excellent. So how many people here are just totally new to crypto, to Bitcoin? Okay, so we have some total newcomers here. That's really exciting. It's always at every event. And how many are working with smart contract language developers? Yeah, excellent. So we've got a good crowd of you guys here. So you'll be interested to speak to Ian and Lewis about smart contracts. So that's excellent. So I just wanted a couple of things. We're not Bitcoin maxis, we're Bitcoin everything. We're choosing, and we'll hear from the guys as to, I'd like to just ask the guys, Ian first, why are you building on Bitcoin?
It's interesting. I think I got asked this question 3 times today, and there are a few reasons, right? And I like to think that the first one is the immutability of Bitcoin, right? Once you have something in Bitcoin, that's there forever. And I'll use forever as a segue to compare Bitcoin with the other blockchains, right? If you think at the life cycle of a blockchain, what is really holding Ethereum? What is really holding Solana, right? 10 years from now, will that be live? Will the NFT you bought really be still live in the blockchain, or will it be just a link to nowhere, right? When you're building on top of Bitcoin, you are leveraging that safety and that security that the Bitcoin provides. So unless the Bitcoin goes down, and if that happens, we are in big trouble for, as a society, I guess. Like the price can go down, but the network will still be there, right? So whatever you build on top of Bitcoin will be there forever. So that's the first reason. Second one, censorship. Like, there is no way you can censor a Bitcoin transaction, right? So if I'm building, in my case, a Forex protocol, and Australian tomorrow, probably need to cut that from the recording, right? But let's say Australia decides that you guys not supposed to use the protocol. Well, I can take the UI down, but there is no way I can remove all the code that is already in there, right? It's immutable. Even if there is like a jurisdiction, like there is no way you can change it. There is no rollback. There is no central authority over that. So that's pretty excited for me. And also because it's fun, like the Bitcoin ecosystem is really fun. There is a lot of cool people trying to help each other. There's a lot of toxic people as well, so try to avoid those guys. But yeah, like overall, I like it. So yeah.
And Lewis, we had a quick chat about that. Yeah, why are you building on Bitcoin?
Yeah, it's a great reason because there are so many good smart contract languages. We have to recognize that there are other layer 1 protocols that people are already invested in and have good reason to continue building in. So I think the reason why I chose Stacks is for two reasons, really. The first one is that it settles on Bitcoin. And so going to the immutability, for my purposes, building a layer that's not strictly speaking a financial application, it sort of leverages that immutability. And it is also very open. So obviously anyone can go and download the full node if they want, if they have the resources to buy the hardware. And explorers, we can go and search up things on the blockchain very easily as well. And for Bitcoin, because it's a very simple scripting language with the greatest number of nodes in the network, it is in fact highly, highly, highly secure. So settling on that is really, really attractive. The censorship resistance properties of the Bitcoin network, I think, are indisputably the best. Although some people would like to talk about Monero. And then the other reason is because Stacks actually uses Clarity, which is the sort of bespoke smart contract language in our ecosystem. And it's really important to note that it's a decidable language, which means that you can actually evaluate the entire call graph. And so for financial applications, for instance, that your money isn't going to get locked up in a smart contract that goes into a loop, and then your funds are frozen forever, because you can evaluate that prior to calling that function for that smart contract. That's really, really attractive as well. So Clarity sits on top of Bitcoin in that way, and resolving to Bitcoin, I think, is very attractive, particularly for people who want things like censorship resistance, but also because, let's say that you want to, for example, mint a new token. Obviously Bitcoin is pretty anti additional tokens, but if you, for example, wanted to mint a new token for your purposes, maybe it's to create your own ecosystem. In my context, that might be as a way of rewarding people who participate in the Scientia protocol doing peer review work, which currently, by the way, all manuscript reviews are done for free. These are people with PhDs and many years of experience working on a volunteer basis to do scientific research. So I think we should reward them. Why not create a token? And if there's a token, there's obviously some form of value. And as as your ecosystem expands in value, it's even more important that that settles on a highly secure base layer.
Yeah, excellent. I'm one of the leads in the Stacks D grants program at the moment. We're just talking about creating a token to reward the people that are giving hundreds. We've got 50 volunteers working on that. So it's diving into a whole new world. But just for the context, look, for the smart contract developers here, we'll cover a little bit more on clarity. And we have a form that you can fill out if you want to book an interview, an interview if you want to book a time to have a chat with me. There's a QR code at the end for the smart contract developers, and I could send you the full learning program or learning options for you. But I just wanted to go next slide to give you a bit of a scope of what's going on. So I think in 2 years ago, there was 4 layers for Bitcoin: Lightning Network, Rootstock, Liquid, and Stacks were pretty much the main ones. When we met in February, I think that there was around, I'm not sure, yeah, the report hadn't come out yet. The Chimea did a report on the layers for Bitcoin. And in February when we met, I think there was we spoke at that meetup, that online event, that there was 10, maybe 20 layers coming that are being built for Bitcoin. So if you think on Ethereum, you've got Optimism, Arbitrum, Mutable X, and now Base. That gives you an idea of there's a layer for Bitcoin. And the reason there's layers there because they need to scale Ethereum. It's the same on Bitcoin. So when we spoke last, there was 20 layers. And I checked in April, and there was 51. And I checked the other day, and we haven't got this month's report. There's 78 protocols, layers being built on Bitcoin of all kinds. So side chains, roll-up state channels, sidechain validators and the likes. So in that, Stacks is the leading on total market cap on the CoinMarketCap. It's not the leading one in total value locked yet, but I think it will be shortly. One of our protocols is going to be launching on Bitfinex tomorrow. So that's the people that created Tether. So we'll see what happens when that comes out. So yeah, it's just quite mind-blowing. And sorry, your name, I met you earlier? Francis here has been working in Asia and working with a bunch. We had a really interesting conversation because I haven't met anyone in Australia that's actually really working with the startups in this space and funding and, thinking about a lot of these layers. When you look at Stacks, they kicked off with $90 million. They then got $130 million for tooling and $150 million to build applications. So it's about $300 million. Some of these startups, they're starting off, they're getting their first 500,000 or the first 3 million or 5 million. So, and even 21 million, one came out the other day just from nowhere. But they've got a long, long way to go. So I think my question will be is where's the next big rug? So it could very well be on layers of Bitcoin. Because the whole idea of the layer of Bitcoin is someone wants you to park your Bitcoin into their protocol to get a yield predominantly on DeFi. So it's how can I get yield out of my DeFi? And that's what all these applications are working to build. So it's going to be really interesting. So there was just in the next slide, there's just a couple of things. One of the interesting things is we spoke also with Francis Alex, one of the leading protocols that had a major hack this week. It wasn't at the smart contract layer. It was probably, he might be able to make one little comment.
No, I shouldn't. I don't think I'm allowed to talk, but let's say if I were allowed to talk, I would just say someone, clicking the wrong span and they got their keys hacked. And that particular protocol was not using the best of the multi-sig wallets and they got dragged, right? So, which was really bad for the protocol, but like from a blockchain perspective, Stacks was completely safe and secure. It's just bad practices from the protocol, right?
Yeah, so we're going to see these things happen early. The last one there, the crypto miner Marathon Digital, interesting, like you see that Base came out and just sort of shot above everyone else for total value of transactions on Base, on Ethereum, the scaling solution. And the crypto miner Marathon Digital, they're building a Bitcoin network called Arduino. So this is going to be very interesting. That's like a corporate funded, Wall Street company that's building a layer for Bitcoin. So that's one that I'm really curious about. And Bob also, I think, has got some very interesting things coming. I think they're, is that with Infinity Chain? Bob? Anyway, check that out. But there is if you go to House of Chimera, and you can grab that whole site there. So just a little bit about for those that are in the ecosystem for DeFi. If we just cover some things on DeFi, yeah.
Can you move to the next slide, please?
Yeah. So just really quickly looking at the size of the amount of money locked on Bitcoin, it's about $1 billion. On Ethereum, it's like, I think actually someone said it's about $60 billion today. But yeah, we're 1% of Bitcoin's locked up in DeFi on Bitcoin. I think it's about 20% of Ethereum's locked up in DeFi and Ethereum. So we only have to move the needle a little bit, being that Bitcoin's 3 times the value of Ethereum. It sort of doesn't take much to get a lot of value locked in there. And Ian put together just a slide, our next one, about some of the different layers then on the layers of Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gordon. I think, yeah, probably it's very hard to see for you guys. Can you guys understand the slide? Not really. Yeah? All right, thank you. Thank you. You guys can see now? Positive, negative? Yeah? All right. So basically that's my way, or one of the ways I use to analyze how good a layer 2 or any chain really is, right? Because it comes down to adoption. It's not so much the technical side, it's whether people are using that or not. And that slide talks about that, right? So we're looking at the total value lock for the 4 biggest layer 2 on Bitcoin. And you can see stacks, you have like a little over 100 million US dollars. And that's not the token itself, right? It's people putting Bitcoin or other tokens and stable coins in the protocol, either to yield or lease the money to a certain extent. Rootstock is probably the one with the biggest value lock, which is very interesting because if you analyze Rootstock, they have less than 100 transactions per day. So I'm not so sure about how exactly or what is happening there. I think that was a whole bunch of stable coins they generated, but no one is using yet. So again, this is one data point, right? You still need to analyze the transactions and the technical and the secured aspect, and then Bob and BitLayer as well, which are growing on that. But if you really analyze the graph, you can see there is a trend, right? And that trend is not only the Bitcoin value, is people coming in and putting money in layer 2s to really power on the ecosystem. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's quite interesting. I was talking to Francis earlier about that on a chain called Merlin Chain. The DeFi Llama metric says there's 1 billion in locked at the moment. 90% of it is actually in ordinals, but it's only metrics that we can go off. So just I don't know how we're doing for time, but just 10 minutes, cool. So
next,
just Lewis touched briefly for the developers that are here, and I guess for everyone, just as some real basics. We'll move really quickly on these, just some basics about stacks. So the first one is that you can stack your stacks and earn Bitcoin rewards, right? So if I've got some stacks, I stack them and I get paid in Bitcoin, real Bitcoin. So you might want to cover the next one. Lewis was talking for the developers about the mechanism, the proof of transfer mechanism.
Yeah, sure.
Just cover that quickly.
It's quite interesting because you can sort of think of it as sort of like mining by proxy. If you could spin up your own Bitcoin miner, or you could lock your value in Stacks tokens, and then by securing the network in a stacking contract, then what you're doing is you're actually going to be rewarded for the opportunity cost of not creating volatility on the chain by that stacking. So in other words, you might lock up a proportion, and then whenever Stacks miners, they have to bid in Bitcoin in order to win the Stacks block, and they win the right to assemble the transactions and make the next block, but they also earn a Coinbase reward that's on the same curve as Bitcoin. So basically it's quite attractive to be a Stacks miner, and what that means is they give up Bitcoin in a bidding process that's blind, and that bidding process is being revised to be even more secure post-Nakamoto. And that Bitcoin that is bid, that doesn't lead to a winning bid, then gets redistributed to those who are stacking. And it turns out that that's currently around 6 to 9% APY, which is quite attractive, even though interest rates in Australia have gone up, you know. It's really quite an attractive APY. And considering you are not doing anything, you know, like some people have to work very hard to do better than inflation, you know. So I think that's something that's worth keeping in mind. And as I said, the Nakamoto upgrade is actually going to rejig this consensus mechanism so that it's both faster and more secure. I see we have a hand.
Oh,
I
sorry.
have a spare mic for you, mate. Get it back.
Sorry, I just wanted to back up and ask a question about the 6 to 8% APY that you said. Is that base in Bitcoin native? So it's like 8% yield on Bitcoin, not 8% yield on Aussie dollar, right? Or US dollar or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. It's Bitcoin denominated.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Do you want a microphone?
Yes, please. So you exchange Bitcoin for a alternative coin, and when you cash it out, it changed back into Bitcoin with 6% of APY. Is that the correct understanding?
Not quite right, because it's actually even simpler than that. So if you're a Stacks miner, you are wanting to arbitrage your Bitcoin for Stacks tokens. So you're obviously switching coins, but you're gaining value relative to what you bid, what you potentially lose. Just in the same way that, you know, a Bitcoin miner will, you know, have certain costs associated with running a mining farm. Yeah, there's going to be certain overheads associated, and so you can sort of analogize that to the amount of Bitcoin that is bid in losing bids versus the successful bids. And so on average, you do make a profit, which is why it continues. The game theory is very clean. And then the APY question is, so the lost bids in Bitcoin, they get redistributed to all of the people who are not miners. They're just stackers. And what they've done is they've used a smart contract to say that they can't actually touch their tokens for a length of time. And that helps reduce volatility on the network, which is good for the network. It increases security. And so that's why they're rewarded. And they're rewarded in that redistribution of Bitcoin bids that have not succeeded.
So one more thing I need to clarify, try to understand, is that 6% APY in the form of Bitcoin. Where does that revenue come from?
Well, it comes from the miners who have lost, the Stacks miners who have lost the bids. They've bid Bitcoin, real Bitcoin. Yep. They've committed it to a Bitcoin contract that's then operated by a smart contract on the Stacks layer. And then that lost Bitcoin gets redistributed. So it goes from the bidders to the stackers.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. There's on the Stacks website, there's very easy learning in there. It's really well written. So if you've got an interest, just go to stacks.co. We've got a slide there later. Ian is a specialist, obviously, in Clarity, and is our head trainer at the university, of course. And so, yeah, any questions around Clarity?
Oh yeah, please send. You can send it my way. Not necessarily now, but we can chat later. We'll be happy to.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, we've got all the learning tools there that we can send to people. One of the reasons tonight that we're here is the next slide is the Stacks are going through an upgrade, and I'll cover these quickly because I think we've got some questions around. I want to just talk about DeFi, but Stacks is going through a significant upgrade now, which is going to take time, just like the Ethereum upgrade. It was meant to be already rolling out, and it started, but it's going to take a bit of time, which will give some greater security to Bitcoin. Stacks at the moment, if you use Stacks, it's 10-minute blocks. It's exactly the same time as Bitcoin because its mechanism at the moment is totally linked to Bitcoin. But after the Nakamoto upgrade, there's going to be faster transactions in the way that they're doing that. And then we've got a project that is being... Oh, sorry.
Next slide.
Yeah, sorry, next slide. We're going to be moving to a project which is called protocol, which is called SBTC. Now, this is what everyone's wanting to do. They're wanting to lock up your Bitcoin, and you're going to have to ask who is holding your Bitcoin. So out of the 78 layers that are coming in, there's probably going to be 100 soon. Who's going to be locking your Bitcoin? There's going to be a lot of spin. There's a lot of EVM compatible chains, especially the ETH users. You'll get drawn into, and I'm not giving any advice, but just be careful. SBTC are doing a trustless peg, and again, there's a very good for the developers that want to learn about the trustless peg. For the users, well, we'll see how secure it gets built and how solid. And there's some good material there. For the people here that were interested, one of the gentlemen I spoke to tonight was interested in DeFi. So if we go to the next slide.
Oh, I think we're... Sorry, you can go back one.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, there we go.
So just wanted to have a look at, I think on Ethereum, that during this bull run here that we've got, there's a lot of really solid projects on Ethereum that are trusted by institutions, and that being Aave, MakerDAO, Uniswap, and Curve, for example. So there are just some examples of some deep projects that have been showed in the test of time now that they're very resilient. So over on Bitcoin, on the Stacks layer, we've got a number of different protocols which would be similar to these. So Zest Protocol, one of our Optio Capital who put this slide together, they've invested into Zest Protocol. Optio Capital have a Bitcoin fund, a Bitcoin layers fund. So if you're more of a high worth individual or an institutional investor, you might want to talk to the guys at Optio Capital. They're like, yeah, and some really interesting projects. So to be involved in these projects, they're early. Most of them haven't got their tokens launched yet. Vela has, Zest hasn't, Bitflow hasn't. So if you've been in crypto a while, there's opportunities there to get there early to put your money up to secure those networks. So just looking at that, the sort of size of the money in there. So there's a lot of opportunity there for people to learn, play around. It's not expensive, but there's also some serious risks.
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
So just a really interesting thing. So Arcadico, the top left one, that actually uses the stacking mechanism that we were just talking about to do fully collateralized Bitcoin loans using their liquidity pools via Alex. So Alex isn't on there, but Arcadico allows you essentially to, just through that APY, pay down a loan, which is really interesting. So you can take a loan out in Bitcoin by locking up your stacks, and then over time, you will simply pay it back through the stacking contract.
Yeah, so when you're using these things, there's risk. Make sure you know your risk. But just want to move quickly. Ian's working specifically on some projects. He's doing work with the guys from Vela, and he's also got his own projects. So can we just cover, we've got a couple of minutes left. So if you want to cover some of those, please. That'd be great. This is sort of really exciting stuff. When you're in an ecosystem and some people are building some really cool stuff, these guys are sort of bringing degens to DeFi, to Bitcoin. It's really sort of bizarre that we've got this real crazy ecosystem happening on Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gordon. So what we're building, and we call that Nakamoto operations, right? Because if you look at the DeFi wave in both Ethereum and in Bitcoin as well, I like that image because that was an actual image, right? Before making cars, they were trying to do electric horses, right? Because they didn't have the concept of a car. And the way I see DeFi nowadays is the same. You are just trying to copy existing instruments from the finance world, right? Nothing wrong with that. That's how innovation starts. But what we are trying to build is the second wave of innovation. Let's rethink DeFi. What can be done differently? What steps can be taken towards decentralization, right? And that's where we come out with that. We have Joey on the left-hand side, which is in the right hand, depending on you are, right? But you get that, which is covering the really degen type of investor, trader, if you will. So your meme coins, your shit coins, whatever is the worst of DeFi will be there. And we're trying to make that work for the people and for the community in a way that they can translate that with Bitcoin finality, right? And there's more to that. I don't want to take too much time. And then the Nakamoto on the right-hand side will become a Forex protocol where everyone can create your own non-USD stablecoins and trade that and create bets against each other. Sorry, I use the term bets, but yeah, you get the gist, right? It's a Forex protocol. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. And the whole idea of creating that, we're using new concepts of creating stable coins that are not volatile and they are not profitable for the first extent, and the protocol will, let's say, make sure it works. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. If you guys have any questions on that or any comments, please reach out. And yeah, sorry, Gordon, if I'm
No,
taking
no,
too much
that's
time.
awesome.
Sorry, can I just one last one? And one thing we're trying to do as well, we're trying to innovate in the way we're fundraising that. So probably we're going to try to create an IDO fully anonymous so we can fundraise part of that protocol, just for the sake of pushing through a little bit more on the decentralization aspect as well.
And so to use that, are you going to use Vela for that?
That is correct. So Velar is the protocol.
And that's the next slide.
All right. So another, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you.
So, you know, needing the tool to do the things that these different people that have finance ideas or degen ideas or DeFi ideas, you need to work with partners. So tell us what you're doing with Velar there.
Yeah, so Velar, I am a big fan of Velar. They are really cool people and they are crypto natives. And there are two things that I'm really keen to work with them. One is the IDO Launchpad. So if you have a company and you want to raise funds, not doing an ICO, but an IDO, right? An initial decentralized offering. So that's a new concept. For me, at least, was very new. They're trying to do. And the second one is the creation of the perpetual markets using Bitcoin. So again, like if you come from a finance background, a perpetual is something you have in most commodities. So they're creating that in a fully decentralized fashion for Bitcoin. And basically you can put options with a 20 times leverage, right? Which is pretty amazing. And I'm pretty excited about that. They are going live on the testnet, I think today or tomorrow. And at some point in a few weeks, if you guys want to play around. Again, never financial advice, right? Do your own research, etc. But yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think the thing that makes Stacks stand out at the moment is just they're working to build institutional grade software for Bitcoin. You know, and they've got a robust team behind them. You know, there's always a risk working with different things. I think the next slide I had for Lewis, but we didn't put anything in there. So just to wrap it up, there's a QR code there to go to stacks.co. I highly recommend if you're going to navigate through the ecosystem, you always go back to stacks.co to get your wallets, to go to the applications. You need to know in Web3 that you're going to the true source. There's that many rugs. You're actually connecting your money to the internet, whereas, you know, there's no payment gateway like they have for credit cards. So for newcomers or anyone, we've all been rugged or hit a phishing attack. And then for Stacks, for the developers, so hope that's fairly easy, stacks.co. For the next one, for the developers, I've just got a block survey there. It's a decentralized Google Forms that was built by a Stacks company. For the next slide, sorry. Oh, the guys aren't there. But if you click on the QR code of that one, you can fill out that form, and that's got some contact details there. And I'll be happy to book a one-on-one with you at any time. So that's about us. Thanks to the guys on the panel. Hope you enjoyed that. We didn't get much interaction with you guys, but thanks.
There'll be plenty more time for all of that. So thanks everyone. You just just put it down. Yeah. Thank you. There is still networking after this, folks. So don't you worry. There's plenty of time for more questions, but the show must go on. Hands up here who has seen that kind of stuff before. Oh, move this way. Perfect. Thanks, Chris. I'll switch mics. There you go. Sometimes it's easier to switch to your secondary mic. All right, so brain hurts in a good way. Mine does, and it's great. Alcohol fixes that, so, you know, go be merry and stuff after. You mentioned like the horse, and they wanted to electrify the horse. It's like what we see with a lot of new technology. We just want to make the old ways of doing things faster, but sometimes it's actually better to rethink and reimagine, whether it's for blockchain or whether it's AI. It's not just, hey, let's put AI or let's put blockchain into that. No, it's even better when you can reimagine a better way, a new way of doing things. Sometimes not possible, but see how you go. And given that we're thinking about like what is next, how do we reimagine things, we've got a great presentation up next. It's Grace from Alibaba Cloud. So they do various things like blockchain services, metaverse, Web3. You might know them from doing traditional kind of cloud things. So if you're using Azure, AWS, Google, it's like that, but Alibaba's like service. So we're going to hear more about that. Grace, if you can come up on stage, come on down. Do you want to stand or sit or stand? Sit. Okay.
Hi everyone, so my name is Grace. I'm Grace Wang. I'm from Alibaba Cloud. So I am actually from Auckland, so I don't know Sydney that well. So hopefully you can help me out with the blockchain landscape in Sydney as I moved to Sydney this year. So before I start my presentation, can I just ask how many of you ever heard about Alibaba Cloud? Wow, so we have plenty of people know about Alibaba Cloud, because usually when I talk about, oh, I'm from Alibaba, so people start ask, I use AliExpress, right? And then the second thing is, okay, I know Alipay, I know Alipay Plus. I've seen all those logos everywhere, but I think not many of us actually sitting here actually know what we're doing at Alibaba Cloud. So the first thing I want to show is this logo. So why is Olympic Games logo there? Because we actually a partner, official partner for IOC since 2017. So we actually did the Tokyo Olympic Games, Beijing Winter Olympic Games, Paris one this year, all the way until Brisbane, 2032. This is a footprint of Alibaba Cloud. So we got 29 regions globally. And what I want to point out is if you look at this map, we're here. So out of 29 regions, we got the majority of the regions in Asia. Not only in Asia, but also in Dubai, and one is missing Saudi Arabia. So really strong in the Asia ecosystem. And for regulation compliance perspective, we actually got data centers in Southeast Asia. So in Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and Singapore. So here you can see we are a niche player in this market. So we work with customers that wants to expand this business to Asia. So how is that relevant to blockchain, to Web3? Sorry, next slide, please. So before we talk about how that is relevant to the blockchain community, I would like to highlight we're actually a global leader in cloud technology. So this is from Gartner as well as from Forens the Wave. So we actually ranked #1 for compute storage, network and security by Gartner for the Gartner Solution Scorecard for integrated IaaS and PaaS. And we are also a leader for Kubernetes, so container management, because the majority of the Alibaba Group ourselves are actually running on Kubernetes. Sorry, next slide. Yeah, so we are #1 in Asia. It's actually APAC. I mean, just talking about from the revenue and market share perspective. So we're around 26%, I believe, as the latest data for Asia. And then we are #3 globally. Sorry, next one. Yeah, so this is from compliance and privacy protection perspective. We have more than 120 certifications. And some of them I want to highlight, apart from GDPR, is also it's PCI DSS for FSI industry. And this one is today's topic. So now we actually move to why our footprint in Asia will be able to assist the Web3 companies to create a community in Asia. This is actually our vision on embracing Web3. So we start from here. We're still a cloud infrastructure provider. So we actually provide infrastructure as a service. And then we actually move to blockchain layer. So blockchain as a service, we do RPC nodes. We actually support full nodes, validator nodes, observing nodes, archive nodes. And at the same time, we actually want to build an ecosystem. We know it's all about decentralization. It's all about everyone working together. It's not about particular layer one. And that's why we actually providing tools and developer kits to the DApp developers to create an open community. Sorry, next one. Okay, so this is actually an overview, not for all the products we do, because there's more here. So I didn't show anything. I didn't show much on the infrastructure layer, because that's not the topic today. So for the infrastructure, I do want to mention what we have is we have Intel SGX. So we do have crypto exchange customers on Alibaba Cloud. They have their own MPC technology running on the Intel SGX on Alibaba Cloud in Asia region. So currently we got Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong region, and it will be a great way if you actually running on other, Intel SGX, then it will be a redundancy, or it can be a way of show decentralization. So that's one thing I do want to. Sorry, can you go back? So this is one thing I do want to point out of compute. One more thing is GPU. So we do have those A100 that has been used for mining for a very recent project. So if you need any more assistance for the infrastructure layer, I'll get my solution architect to talk to you. And then blockchain nodes as service, I mentioned about RPC recently. So this is a product we launched last year. So now we support Ethereum, we support Sui, we support Solana. Solana is a bit different story, but we do support the one-click using edge nodes instead of the public cloud. At the same time, we do actually, sorry, I have to stand here. So we actually do cloud security as well as security management. So this is the private key security solutions we do, and we actually work together with an MPC partner. So we actually work with a partner called Safeforge. I'm not too sure if you know about them, but they are really good at the cryptography, and we are good at the TE, Intel SGX, and other infrastructure. And we partner together to offer this service. So it's actually got like 3 pieces. So I'm sure you know about this. Can be a SaaS. So it can be a SaaS wallet for your policy engine. And then it can also be a private deployment. At the same time, it can be SDK. So you can actually use the MPC piece, SDK, to create your own solution, like for Web3 gaming, to create a Web2 experience for your Web3 games. At the same time, we do eKYC. So where does this come from? It's from Entrepreneurial, right? So we have e-wallet, we have super app. And for our own e-wallet, we actually have in-house developed eKYC technology. We call it Zolos Real ID. So that does the ID verification. It does the facial recognition. And if you remember previously, I showed about the certifications. We actually got ISO at beta level 2, liveness attack. That means if you're actually using a 3D modeling view, we can tell the differences. And that's actually used by many banks. So it's eKYC solution. It's not only for Web3, but traditionally it's actually for banks and for Forex, for a lot of like FSI industry. But now I can tell you, we have really big crypto exchanges that everyone knows that's using our eKYC solutions for Asia, right? So we don't want to say we can do it globally, even though we support all the passports globally, but we have our strengths. It's because of the ecosystem we have, we actually support Southeast Asian IDs. And you don't know there's more than 10 IDs in Philippines, in Indonesia. And unfortunately, not everyone has a passport. So that's our strength for eKYC. And AML is 2 parts. So one part is actually AML, traditional AML. So section screening, risk classifications. But the other part is KYT, right? So we do have an API library you can check for the wallet. Yeah, and we do have the KYT capabilities as well. So talk to us if that's of any interest. And the last thing I want to mention here is smart contract review. So why do we do that? Right? So because because of on-chain. So it's all the Alibaba ecosystem. So we have a lot of expertise on the blockchain, and they provide the services. So why do you come to us? There's a lot of people doing the smart contract review. So I would say for two reasons. Number one is quicker turnaround time. We can guarantee 5 days. Number two is we can do overtime. Okay, so because I think a challenge for a lot of projects is you have to give them timeline. You have to tell them, hey, I need this one to start on this day. Well, if you tell me on Friday, I need it, if you pay double the price, then of course, we'll be able to deliver to you within 2 days over the weekend, right? So of course, depends on how many units of the smart contract. One more thing I want to mention is, apart from the blockchain knowledge service, this year we're actually doing blockchain data service, so indexing. Sorry, next one. Okay, so remember that footprint I showed you with VIA? Yeah, so this is actually what we're doing to grow the community in Asia. We work with many layer ones. So we actually work with Epitos. We did 4 events for them last year with Epitos. Work with Town, Sui, Solana, in Hong Kong, in Japan, in Korea, in Thailand, in Singapore, in those local regions in local language. And the events is sometimes it's a hackathon, sometimes it's actually build your house, sometimes it's actually Alibaba events that we invite our blockchain partners to be part of those events. One more thing I do want to mention is this is our Hong Kong event last year. So last year, I did an event in Hong Kong during Hong Kong FinTech Week. I invited New Zealand and Australia businesses who actually travel all the way to Hong Kong to check out Hong Kong, whether it's actually for funding or for regulation or for anything else. We invited them to Alibaba Cloud office. And I know someone was sitting here as well, Clinton. So I think some of you also been to our Singapore events. So we did an event last year in September during Token 2049 in Singapore for Australia and New Zealand businesses who actually want to find more about Singapore. So now you see the value of Alibaba Cloud here is still the same, whether it's actually blockchain or not. It's Asia Accelerator. Right? So if you want to tap into the Asian market, then we'll be there to help you. And for last one, it's actually about the regulation. So we got our legal team to actually explain about the Web3 regulations in Hong Kong. It's not about cloud infrastructure, because we know we have to help our customers to establish business first in Hong Kong, then leverage multi-cloud, for the Asian market. One last thing on this slide is last one. So we actually built a tech forum for one of the, it's actually Epitos. It says here, move on Epitos, for Epitos for layer ones. So we can actually design partnership programs with our customers, with the foundation of the layer ones, and to actually target the market they want to target and to grow the DF developer community. And for last one, we actually did in mainland China. So, mainland China, Hong Kong, I think Japan, so all those East Asia and in the Southeast Asia. So that's where our focus are. And of course, Dubai, Saudi, as well as Turkey. Yeah, so that's my contact details. So Telegram, I'm sorry I'm from corporate, so I'm still using LinkedIn, and email address and phone number. I was hang around, so any questions, just let me know.
Yep. One question at the back. Let me just go right over to Rob.
Thank you. Just coming back to the multi-party computation service that you provide, did you say that that was an Ali Cloud service, or is it a third-party provider that you've got?
It's Alibaba Cloud service.
So it's your MPC API library with running it on your own SGX chips?
So the MPC piece is actually from partner. So how we work is we're not an expert on chain. We're not expert on cryptography.
It's not Fireblocks, is it?
No, it's not Fireblocks.
Okay, cool.
It's
That's
a
all I wanted to
competitor
know.
for Fireblocks.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's cost effective if you put it that way.
Okay, we've got to get moving on to the next one. So great. If there's more questions, Grace will be around in the networking. So thanks very much, Grace from Alibaba Cloud. All right, moving on. And as Grace mentioned there, like it's massive markets in Asia. Like you come to these events, these are cool and all, but when you go to Token 2049, you go to the CoinFest stuff in Bali, you go to elsewhere, Hong Kong, all around Asia, and as Grace said, even mainland China is doing stuff. So there's a lot more positivity in this space. You mentioned that you're doing stuff in traditional finance, so that's great. Guys, just be quiet as you're heading out. Thank you. And if you are outside, just like keep the noise down. We've got the doors open. Aircon wasn't working in here for some reason, so that's why we've got the doors open. So if you are going to head outside, just keep the noise levels low so presenters can hear. But yeah, it's interesting to see that traditional finance is embracing blockchain type technologies. It's like if you think about it, like there are things happening in the real world where you have rules and regulations and laws, and then it's after the fact that if you break that law, that you have the consequences of punishments and penalties. But some things could be put on blockchain where it even stops you from doing that. So for example, if you were not allowed to sell a wholesale security to a retail investor, with a smart contract, it could just stop you from doing that. So even how we run things in a traditional world is going to be interesting. So with that and talking about innovation, we've got our next presenter up from Safeforge. Where's Julian? Come on down. You got the choice. Do you want to be behind here or do you want to be on a panel? Okay, lectern, and you've got props. Interesting. Our first... okay, so that mic's on. Oh, you can take this one too?
All right. Yeah, before we get started, just want to say thanks to Mark and the Oz DeFi team for arranging this event and having us speak here. You guys are awesome. Super important part of the community. I think we should all give them a round of applause. All right, so keeping on the theme with audience interaction, let me first ask, how many of you guys here identify as left curvers? Meme coin, shillers, people who are out there to make, quick buck. Yeah. Quite a few. How many of you guys are right curvers? There's a few right curvers, and I'm guessing the rest of you guys are sort of in that middle. All right, so news for you guys left curvers. You guys can go to sleep for the next 5 minutes. I'll let you know when we get to the part of the presentation that will be interesting for you, and I promise that I'll make a lot of noise so that you'll be very excited. For the rest of us, let's go on to the next slide. So, okay, so we'll get started. What happened to my slides? All right, so what are we trying to solve at Safeforge, yeah? And so the problem that we're trying to solve at Safeforge is the very, very fundamental problem that crypto investment is bloody difficult, yeah? Investing in crypto is not easy. There's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of rug pulls out there. There's a lot of even the strategies themselves are really difficult to get a hold of. It's a very difficult space to really get a hold of. And so, we want to ask ourselves, right? Could we build an analog of, something like an ETF in crypto, yeah? Could we build an optimal long-term passive investment? And a lot of people have tried this in this space, right? There's a really cool protocol called Index Co-op. There's another one called Alongside. They played in this space sort of like trying to build an optimal index, and they've all kind of failed. They all kind of suck And why? Why do they all kind of fail? Why do they all kind of suck? Because I think they fundamentally aren't taking advantage of the benefits that crypto has, right? And so for those right curvers here, right, like what we're trying to build is we're trying to reimagine passive investing from the ground up. If we start from first principles, ask ourselves, okay, traditional sort of index investing, ETF investing is all about the market is efficient, therefore buy the market. Let's get rid of that assumption. The market is not efficient. We all know that the market is not efficient. Then what happens? Well, there's information asymmetry in the market. Okay, then what happens? Well, any system that we build needs to transfer sort of knowledge from one side to the other. I think we can go to the next slide. Ooh, maybe even the slide after that. And so then we get, to our solution, right? And our solution is to build an ecosystem where people can provide signals, trading signals, right? So think sort of like quants providing trading signals to a central or a decentralized platform where they can get rewarded for it. And so how do we sort of, and this brings the problem, right? How do we split sort of good signals from bad? And so we use a concept, or we're sort of inspired by a concept, which statisticians will call multi-armed bandits. DSAI people, this is a question for you guys. What would machine learners call it? Anyone know? Q learning, right? So we're inspired by Q learning. Basically this idea that instead of learning across sort of different sort of branches and sort of actions, we're actually learning across different signal providers. And so as people provide more signals, they build their reputation, and as signal providers provide sort of better and better signals, they build a bigger reputation, and we allocate more and more of our funds to them in a decentralized manner. And so basically what happens at the end of the day is that they're running their own decentralized hedge fund without the overhead. We are sharing fees with them, and they don't have to worry about any of the overhead. So next slide. So this is sort of like a quick sort of overview of our ecosystem. Nothing too exciting. If you have any questions, come ask me later. Next slide is where we want to go. So then we asked ourselves, how do we make this, this thing, right? This product, right? How do we make it exciting? Because at the end of the day, what people want is, we can build something really, really cool. And I think as a right curver, to me, I think this idea of reimagining passive investment is super exciting. But I talked to my teammate Zern, and he's like, I don't know, you might make 300%, you may make 500%, but I might also lose 40%. That's not that exciting, yeah? It just sounds as risky as ETH or Bitcoin. And so we're like, okay, we have to go one step further. And so what do? Well, what we're going to do is we feed initial capital into funding rate arbitrage through something like Athena or through our own bot. We invest the yield from that into our strategy token, and so we magnify that yield, right? So funding rate arbitrage returns 30-60%. Our strategies, and we will show you some of our strategies. They're depending on bull or bear, but we're talking about maybe 10, 15% a month. And now you left curvers can wake up again, because what we're returning then is we have a product that will return about 100 to 150% with zero market risk to underlying capital. Now, isn't that exciting? Let's go to the next slide. And so then you might ask, well, okay, so it's all very well to talk about strategies and people sort of providing sort of different strategies. Do you have anything to show for it? Yeah. Well, we actually gone out and built some strategies. Yeah. So the one on the left is just a hierarchical risk parity strategy. You can get this sort of off the off a Python package, basically, but it works really, really nicely. Rebalance monthly. We outperform sort of Ethereum about like 30% sort of over the testing period, which is almost 2 years at this point. So all the way through the bear market. And then we've also been testing more recently a long-short strategy, sort of over the last, I think it's almost 9 months now, sort of outperformance by about 140% at this point. So 3.5x. Obviously, there's a lot of bull market sort of noise sort of filtered into that, but we can see that sort of like good models can be performed, right? We can make good models, and other people can make good models as we decentralize everything. So next slide. So the platform itself, we are still building. And so, how do we get involved? Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing is we are launching our NFT. We actually already launched it, and we are selling, and they're starting to sell out. So what this allows you, what this gives you access to, is we're pledging 15% of protocol revenue, not profit, revenue to be shared among NFT holders. There's a really cool price floor mechanism where we take a portion of the money that is bought that is used to buy the NFT, set it aside, invest in our token when it does launch, our product when it does launch, and that will create a price floor. You can always swap your NFT for that, for your share of the tokens. So that will mean that it could never go to zero, and at each price there's a limited supply. So as I said, it's selling out. It is whitelist only. So Alex or Zern, could you stand up, please? So if you want to get on the whitelist, talk to one of these guys, please. And I do advise you to buy one, to get on the whitelist, because the next slide, don't go there yet, is super exciting. All right, so next slide is super exciting because this is the first time that we've been able to announce this in public. So could I get a drum roll, please? Now, next slide. Safeforge is launching our token. We have just today, actually, put pen on paper with our Launchpad partners, and we will be launching our token. It's a utility/governance token. We'll be using it throughout our ecosystem. We're using it to fundraise so that we can finish our product, pay for audits, all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, we've got a Launchpad. They're excited. We're excited. We're going to make this happen. And so details are still yet to be finalized and announced, but the pen is on paper here, so we're up and ready to go. So next slide, and last slide. So for anyone who wants to keep updated on sort of what we're building here, that's a link to our Substack. We also got various other social media, but Substack is probably the most sort of consistent place where we post. Yeah, so sign up, give us your email, and we'll keep you updated on everything that we're building here. And yeah, that's what we've got today. Before we go there, I do have a quick prop. Mark,
We like props.
could you come up, please?
We do love our props. This is not scripted.
This is not scripted, no. So Mark,
What is
thanks
this?
for having us present.
Oh.
I'd like to present you
It's a wig. Wait, no.
with your very
Ah.
Safeforge t-shirt. And,
Check it
feel
out.
that quality.
It feels like
top
quality,
class.
folks. I can
Yes.
feel it.
That's like pajama level quality.
As long as I'm not Phil and I work out and grow big, then
We might have to get you a bigger one.
yeah. But no, thank you so much.
Yep.
Amazing. And you've got a few more
We've
for
got
the
a few
community,
more, so,
yeah?
Does anyone want one?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Jeez. Guess who I'm going to get to sell my house if I had one?
Ooh.
Oh, Jesus.
All right, yep.
That's crypto reflexes right there, folks. There you go. Oh my gosh. Watch out, folks.
All right, we've got way more
There's
here.
a
so
few
we'll,
more, so
pass out more.
okay, well done. Wow. Jesus. Okay, thank you. Yes. Although, given how well you presented, you should take the mic. We've got one more presenter, but before we do, first of all, not financial advice, but that was definitely entertaining. And in terms of merch, I mean, there's a couple of other projects here. We can learn from doing stuff like that. So well done. So put it this way, you will never lose out in terms of being able to come back up. I know you've been coming to the community so many times, these events, so we thank you for that. And first of all, before I go on to the next one, hands up here if it's your first time. I met some of you before, but I just want to get a show of hands. First time coming to one of these. Okay, there's a few of you. Oh, very good. Yeah, there you go. Right up high. Thank you so much for joining in. Hopefully it has been entertaining. And we're going to round things out before we get to networking now with some amazing updates from our friends at Stables. They're one of our sponsors, so we'll go to the next slide, please, before we get Bernie up. Thank you, Chris. All right. Words that I'm not allowed to say because this is live. Fork fear? No. Okay. So Bernie, come on down and let's get some updates from Stables.
here or?
Yeah, whatever. I got to remind my team to bring some merch for next time we onboard. That was amazing. Yeah, so how many of you here heard of stables before? Aside from Mark. Oh, sick. That's pretty good. Well, just a reminder for those of you that haven't heard of us. At Stables, we're building a stablecoin wallet that allows people to save, spend, and earn all on stablecoins. We started a company about 3 years ago, and now we are quickly moving, like from a little Australian startup to more of a global startup. So, like as you can probably tell, we're not very much fiat friendly. We don't really like fiat too much. We think stablecoin is so much cooler than fiat, and they're going to eventually replace it. Stablecoins today very much call it like lipstick on a pig, but I really believe eventually we're going to get to a place where, we're going to be able to truly power decentralized application with decentralized money. So next, yes. So what's happening at Stables, if you use the app, that as an Australian, you can on-ramp, you can buy stablecoin, you can spend stablecoin through our MasterCard rails, and you can also send stablecoin through a bank account. So for instance, that's how I pay my rent. I pay my rent through stablecoin, my agent gets AUD. It's done in an almost Beame-like experience, something like that. And, as part of our global ambitions, really, Australia is a cool place to launch a crypto company. Great community, lots of degens, people love to gamble. That's why you get so much of an adoption here of people using stablecoin, having stablecoin. However, there's better places in the world where, you can get people to actually use stablecoin. And if you really think about the crypto adoption, we started the stablecoin journey with call it the crypto natives, crypto degen, just accessing stablecoin because they want to hedge volatility, or they want to just go and do another perps on chain to try and lose 10 times their net worth. But now we're actually getting to a place where it's so much interesting, and we're seeing people that they didn't have stablecoin, we could call it crypto agnostic, commonly interacting with stablecoin, not because they want to go and lose their house on crypto, but because they actually need it. And these people usually in emerging markets, call it Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, and there's rampant inflation. I don't know if how many of you knows how people buy stablecoins in Argentina. It's fascinating. You can literally send a message to a money changer on WhatsApp. A guy comes with a bag of cash, and you pay him stablecoins, or the other way around. That's how people usually on and off ramp. And really, so if you think about what stablecoin can do in those type of geography, it's really giving people access to tools that otherwise they wouldn't have access to. And when you start putting beautiful user experiences with very complex technology together, and you can really abstract the complexity away and give people something already acquainted with, such as mobile wallets. That's where we believe that people can really start getting into the stablecoin, wave of adoption, and that's how we believe that you go from crypto agnostic to your mom and dad's using stablecoins. So we recently, actually as of today, we announced our partnership with Yellow Card in Africa. So as of today, anyone in 138 countries using stables with stable coins can use the stable app to remit money to Africa through banking rail or through mobile wallets rails. On the mobile wallet side, it basically takes almost instantaneous. So you could be in the US and send money in Nigeria. The person in Nigeria is going to get money. It should be in less than a minute, sub 1%. If you start thinking about how that usually works, it would be days and probably between 8 to 16%. So massive improvement there. Real use case of stable coins. Not a lot of people talk about it because number doesn't go up, but it's actually pretty cool. The other thing that we also recently launched is crypto top-ups. So there's the way that we're thinking about even how do people access stable coins and what you then can go and do with these stable coins is lots of people have Bitcoin, they have, like 30 at once, there may be, someone up here not necessarily like too much. Or like Ethereum or any of these new L2 tokens. And what we imagine is like basically allowing people to deposit their, like tokens into stables. And then we would go and source the best on-chain liquidity to go and convert those tokens into stablecoin for you. So for instance, you could go and say, I want to go and top up my stables wallet with Ethereum. You go and say on whichever chain you want to top it up. We give you a wallet address. Once you go and deposit from your non-custodial wallet for your exchange wallet, whatever that might be, into your stables account, we're going to go and source the best on-chain liquidity for you to go and convert that into stable coins and top up your stables account. And then you'll be able to go spend this Sandy or do whatever else that you do with it. And last but not least, maybe I should have started there. As part of us expanding our Rails to Africa, we also revamp our sending experience. So now people can send fiat and stablecoin in a, call it like beaming-like experience. So you just select whether you want to send stablecoin to a crypto wallet, a bank account, or a e-wallet. You select which country if you go through the fiat Rails. And then effectively you just like enter the banking details or the mobile number of the person you're sending money to, you hit continue, and then the money gets sent to that person overseas. So the way that I think about this specifically is like, well, like my mom, for instance, she's absolutely, she's not very tech savvy. She struggled to use WhatsApp. The kind of person that tells me, how am I gonna actually hang up this phone call? So I was like, well, how am I gonna get her to like, use these, crypto money that his son is into. And I was like, well, there must be a better way to do these type of things. And therefore, like, we come up with this idea that, like, if you want to send stable coin, if you send it to a stable, like, you could do a stable to stable address transfer, that would be free. So between stables addresses is free. However, you could also send it to a bank account. And when you send it to a bank account, the recipient receives cash and never knows that you actually were sending stablecoin. So I think that's pretty cool. And there's a bunch of also other very exciting thing in the pipeline, such as us possibly going to Abu Dhabi and launching Latam Rails. But that's going to be for another day. That's all. Thank you.
So you can top up your stables like from any other wallet. So if I send like ETH there and convert it to stablecoin, what's the tax implications there? You got to be ready for that question.
That's fine. I always like if I come to an event and somebody doesn't ask me about tax, I think it's a failed event. I mean, number one, it would be you should ask your accountant. I cannot give you any tax advice. Number two, it would be, I mean, it's probably like a conversion, right? So that's probably how you would treat that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Knew Phil would ask the tax advice question. My goodness.
We have a question over here.
Another question? Yeah, 1 second.
So do you guys have a full know your customer process to onboard new users, or can I keep myself anonymous on that?
Good question. I mean, my PR person should say, be careful how you answer this, this question. But we do, unfortunately, have to do KYC. Whenever you touch PR Rails, you got to do KYC. Then whether you want to have a philosophical discussion, whether that helps or not,
that's fine. Thank you.
Just had a question. So if for Australians, because we've got less need than transferring money, like money transfers and like, so if I was going to say Japan, I'm going to spend like say out of my $2,000, I'll spend $200 on international transaction fees.
Yep.
So does that, if I top my wallet up to travel with the USDC, am I going to avoid all those international transaction fees and just get a credit card fee?
You will get a way better rate than whatever you get with your banks. Funnily enough, I was in Dubai recently for Token 2049, and I was talking to a friend who recently moved there, and she was telling me this story how she was in Singapore, and she couldn't use her card, so she opened up her Stables app, she sends the stable coin in, and she started tapping. I was like, oh my God, that was the best shit ever. I was like, amazing. So yeah, you can do that. We see that actually a lot, especially I think like crypto native here in Australia, they do travel quite a bit. and they prefer using stable coins over, you know, like just like call it like traditional banking card, because they really do rip you off on a lot of fronts. The other thing to consider is that when you're spending with stables, you're spending, like the card doesn't hold the balance. So like the difference between stables and other, call it like crypto cards, is that usually when you're going to use this crypto card, what they do is like you top up the card, so the card holds the balance, and when you top up the card, that card holds a fiat balance. With stables, it's a $0 balance card that is connected to your on-chain wallet. So like every time you spend, you're actually just spending USDC. But you still go through dirty fiat rails, so there's implication there.
And the other question was, did you have to have...
Is it like crypto for wise, like something?
Is it wise as the brand, or why? Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, we're very wise. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, I think it's like, it's almost at the intersection of Wise, MoonPay, and the Crypto.com. We just do three things, and we do it very well. But it's all powered by stablecoin underneath. So like you could transfer money across the water through stablecoins rails, and then you just do the last leg in fiat, if that makes sense. So like you improve food settlement time.
Sorry, I'm just going to repeat that. Handle virtual Visa card. Is that the, can they handle virtual Visa cards?
For sending money or for spending? Yes, we do have MasterCard, if that's okay. But yeah, we give you like a virtual MasterCard, and you can tap wherever MasterCard is accepted. And soon announcement in another big jurisdiction with MasterCard.
Ooh, announcements are always fun at these events, and hopefully you didn't do the wrong things via PR. We've got time for one more question for Bernie. Anyone? All right, we're going to save it for Bernie the Wise. Thank you so much for the update.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
To Bernie. Amazing. Okay. Wow. That was so good. This is live on YouTube now. I don't know how many people are watching, but thanks for everyone that is watching online. And if there is anything PR-wise that we need to scrub from the internet, let us know, and we'll talk to our friends at Google. But I just want to leave you with a few things. Let's just get to the next slides. So you can see the different sponsors and whatnot that are on here. So if you are interested in sponsoring these events and being able to come up on stage and just give us updates, you don't have to be a sponsor to do that, but the sponsors do get special perks, as is always the case. The importance of these events is that it's all about, it's not just the presentations, it's the networking. If you leave here today having learned something new, having met someone new, having new opportunities in front of you, because we've heard some really cool stories about people that are now working in the space from having just come to one of these events. And there's a lot of great things that can happen. So just talk to your fellow people outside. There's a few more drinks outside. You've demolished the pizzas, so well done. Thanks very much for that. And thank you, Domino's. But I do want to leave you with one more thing. That there's all the different events. So if you want to know what is coming up next, we had it at the start. You can watch the replay of this on YouTube. But the week of the 11th to the 14th is Blockchain Week. We've got the next Oz DeFi event in a few weeks' time. So that's on the 13th. It'll be a Thursday here. We normally do Wednesdays. So for those people that can't make Thursdays, it'll be online. All right. And once again, we thank all the people that have spoken today. If you've got more questions for them, they'll be outside. And for now, Sydney, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Okay, go drink.